Hey, didn't see you there. I was just reading the fabulous and hilarious restoration comedy called The Country Wife by William Wycherley. You know this comedy? You know this comedy? Oh, well, no, it's fabulous. You know this comedy? No? Well, it's fabulous, filled with farcical characters and themes to entertain not only audiences, but readers. Students, too. Students, especially. You know, I actually had to do a research project on this play, and I just finished it. Let me tell you all about it. My lovely 211 class was beyond petrified when receiving the original rubric for this research project. Each student picked a play, and I picked The Country Wife. Poor me. The Country Wife. Poor me, I knew nothing about researching before this class. High school, am I right? Unlike high school projects, I actually learned from this experience. I can now safely navigate my way through a database and find legitimate sources. I had some challenges, to say the least. I procrastinated. I found sources which I thought were to be helpful, but really, they were trash, which I figured out last minute and I needed to switch them under stress. My sources were pretty lengthy, too. And not to mention the chaos and the language of the script. But man, I had some successful moments. My sources were interesting. Each source contributed work, either backing up my views or showing me opposite views. Each source contributed work somehow, either backing up my views or showing me an opposite side. In other words, each source was individually beneficial in some way, shape, or form. I was also successful in reading my sources. Let me tell you how. I'll let you in on some tips and tricks. If you find a source or book, I'd recommend finding the core of the book. If you find a source or book, if you find a source like a book or a database, if you find a source such as a book or an academic journal, if you find a source such as an academic journal or a book, I recommend finding the source. I recommend finding the core of the source. Meaning you should skip over the filler. And actually find quotes that are significant to your work. Aha! You must read. Another trick I have, which is really common sense. You must read your play. To get an understanding of your play, or the project as a whole, you have to read it. Without understanding the play, you can't distinguish themes or the importance of any research. Here's an obvious one. You can't procrastinate. It's hard not to, but try chipping away. Try making goals for each week so the annotations or the questions due won't be rushed. And you will be and you will successfully complete and comprehend your work by that due date. Plus, no one wants to work on a Friday. My last tip for you: cite your sources correctly. Come on. Without citing them correctly, you'll lose unnecessary points that you should have had. It's pretty easy. Use Purdue OWL to cite your sources. It's easy to follow. You might have plagiarism within your work if you don't cite correctly. If your professor recommends something or gives you a piece of knowledge, really listen to them. They know what they're talking about. They got a doctorate after all. Thank you on listening in. And I know this is a great amount of knowledge dropped, but let it all simmer. Now please, I'm trying to read. Oh, William.